Rather than try to sell you products over social media, I am proud to say that this episode of The Quest Within is sponsored by Guild, a nonprofit based in St. Paul, Minnesota, that empowers individuals living with mental illness or experiencing long-term homelessness by helping them lead stable, fulfilling lives in the community of their choice. What I love about Guild is that they tailor all their services to their clients on an individual basis, and everything is super customized. They believe everyone is worthy of the opportunity to create a life with joy, community, safety, and shelter. They offer mental health services that cover everything from case management to intensive residential treatment services, which is an incredible alternative to hospitalization, ultimately reducing homelessness and creating stability for their clients. Through their housing support and evidence-based supportive employment services, Guild truly helps folks along their entire journey towards stability and independence. Their holistic, individually tailored approach has changed thousands of lives over the course of Guild's existence. Guild appreciates my nerdy side too. I met their leadership through my work with 2DCon, Minnesota's largest gaming convention, and they were the first organization of their kind to take my work in the gamer space seriously. In fact, one of their events that they do every year is pretty nerdy in nature. This year, I will be DJing and emceeing Guild's Bash for Mental Health from 2 to 6 p.m. on June 22nd at Forgotten Star Brewing in Fridley, Minnesota. This event combines gaming, food, drink, and community. What more could you need? We will be spreading awareness of what Guild does, sharing more about the prevalence of mental illness, and of course, playing games and listening to music played by yours truly. Tickets are on a first-come, first-served basis, so I would grab some today if I were you. If you are unable to attend, please consider donating to Guild in order to further their mission to make an impact on people's lives. All of these reasons are why I approached them to form a partnership, and I'm so glad that they decided to work with me to further make an impact. From here on out, I will be supporting Guild with monthly donations and also contributing 10% of my merch sales to further support their mission. If you are able, please consider either buying some of my merch or supporting Guild directly so they can continue to make an impact on the world. Please check out www.guildservices.org or visit any of my social media in order to find out more. Thank you again to Guild for not only sponsoring this episode, but for what you do in general. Now, let's get back to it.
This is The Quest Within.
Nate, you're back again, and I love that for us.
Yeah, me
it's
too.
Wonderful.
It's been a hot minute.
It has been a hot minute, but you know what? I have been feeling a little bit, should I say, uncomfortable when you're not here?
Gee, Louise. Oh, wait, Louise is upstairs.
Yeah, she is upstairs. My little pup. Oh, I love her so much.
Yes.
I never thought I would love a dog, Nate.
Oh.
But I love her.
Do you? You have a soul, so.
Yeah, that is true.
Supposedly, anyway.
For the longest time, I didn't, though. For the longest time, I didn't like dogs. I don't know. I just found them to be annoying. But holy crap, when you have the right one. Well,
I mean, isn't that the kind of being a parent in a nutshell?
I know, right? I'm like, yeah. When I feel like everybody, when they get a dog, they're like, oh, I'm a dog person now. Like, I don't know. I haven't met a single person that's like, yeah, I still hate them. I don't know, man.
It'll happen. But
anyways,
cats, that's different.
Well, what do you want to talk about today, man?
Uncomfortability.
Okay.
One of the beautiful words.
Yeah, how I felt when you weren't around podcasting with me.
Aww.
But no,
that's just alone. That's
yeah,
different.
right. Exactly. It's a different emotion.
No, uncomfortability it's one of those odd things that is important to recognize and very hard. It's a skill that you have to learn of how to sit with being uncomfortable. I think it is something that doesn't exist as much these days. People don't know how to do it.
Right.
But it's very important. I think this is present for me in my life in some ways at the moment, through some relationships and emotional uncomfortability of things can be okay, but also recognize that there are things you're working through and you may not have the connection you want at that moment.
Okay.
And you have to sit in the uncomfortability that, things are good, but they're also not okay. but you're making a commitment to work through that.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Do you think maybe people mistake that for anxiety? Or is it the same thing? What do you think?
I am not medically qualified to make that judgment.
Yeah, I suppose.
My own
Neither
personal
of us are. Yeah.
opinion there is that, I mean, anxiety is a very real thing. A lot of that is based around worry for the future and possible outcomes that, quite frankly, are in your control and 99.9% will never come to pass.
Right.
No, I think uncomfortability is just, it's more of an in the moment thing of you want to say or do something in a reactionary way instead of sitting and being and letting things flow through.
Okay. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. So instead of like...
An example comes to mind.
Okay, yeah, go
You
ahead.
had mentioned in the past, in previous podcasts, when you and Maddie together, you can be comfortable together and sit in silence.
Yes.
What is the opposite of that?
Uncomfortability.
Right.
Yeah.
So where does that feeling stem from?
Huh. That is such a good question. I did not expect to be stumped. Where does that stem from?
What comes up for me is unsuredness.
Okay, yeah. Well, and uncertainty, which you definitely mentioned earlier. But like, I don't know, why does that... Okay, say it is a scenario where you are sitting in a room with somebody and it's not somebody like your significant other that you're just cool to be silent around. Yeah, why does that stem? I don't understand where that comes from. Is it like I don't know, it could be a number of things, obviously. The brain is complex. Gosh, I am stumped on this, man.
I love it.
I don't know what to say.
So
that doesn't happen often.
We're just spitballing here.
Yeah.
When you are comfortable around another human being, and all of these scenarios right now, I'm focusing on people, on comfortability. When you are comfortable around another person, you have created a relationship of communication, right? You know that there are things that are unspoken,
right,
that the other person could pick up and know. And that has come through lots of communication and spending time with each other and building a relationship. When you don't have a relationship with someone or don't have the ability to communicate, there is uncomfortability because there are things that want to be said that can't be said.
Yeah, because you don't know where their threshold is
so
at.
It builds tension and uncomfortability, which can also manifest as anxiety.
True. Okay. I do know something to say now because that made me think of when I'm doing Uber rides. There are certain people that get in my car that it is an uncomfortable moment. But what do? Me being the weirdo I am, I internally am laughing about it. Well, and I think that stems from also knowing that they'll only be in my car for, 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, and then I never see them again. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I've definitely driven the same people more than once. I even drove a guy 3 times once. It's like, how are you, man?
In the same day?
No, not in the same day. I drove a guy twice in the same day because he was going from the cities to Maplewood and then back. I got him. But no, it's this dude who plays darts. Yeah, I drive him up to Coon Rapids. Yeah, he's a good dude. Anyways, how are you, bro? But yeah, sometimes it's really uncomfortable, and the things that they're saying to me, I'm just boy, I would love to say what I'm actually thinking, but because this is a transactional relationship, I can't quite do that. And yeah, it does create a little bit of weird tension. But then again, I've caught myself feeling that kind of a tension and then just sort of laughed internally. Yeah, they're only in my car for so long, but if you look at this from the outside perspective, it is actually pretty funny, the things that they're saying to me and that are happening right now. So that is where I think of it in my life. In the moment, the most recent. But yeah, okay, so what are the pros and cons of sitting with uncomfortability? Why is this something that we should be okay with and not run away from, or vice versa?
As with all things, there are spectrums of uncomfortability. There is safe uncomfortability and there is dangerous uncomfortability.
Yes.
Right? You're talking about being in an Uber. There is dangerous uncomfortability where assault and other things where
There can be, yep.
you can feel that coming. And there's just sitting with new people who are just not good at communicating or
Yeah.
whatever.
Not everybody knows how to people, so
Not everyone knows how to people. And I get it.
Yep. All have different experiences in life.
Yeah, so to talk to your point, I think it is a skill. And a lot of the things that we've talked about, especially when we were doing mental health conversations, is around tools.
Yes.
Right. And sitting with being uncomfortable is a important skill to have because it's going to happen all throughout your life.
True.
I think it is something that has been lost, and our society, there's a lot of strong words that are thrown around these days that I'm not going to repeat here because it's just not worth it.
No worries.
But people definitely have lost the ability to have resilience and sit in being uncomfortable situations. And you're always going to encounter people who have very opposing views and thoughts and actions, and knowing how to deal with that and deal with what comes up, emotions, things from your past that you weren't aware of that suddenly, present themselves, all sorts of things. It's important. And that can be, breathing techniques. It can be sometimes just like knowing when to walk away, sometimes knowing how to express yourself in the moment of, hey, I'm feeling this. Is that about right? It's like, are you feeling the same thing? And you might be someone's like, no, like, let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Finding people who have emotional communication skills
Yeah.
is huge. But yeah, uncomfortability is a weird piece that can also flow into your work life. And not, it kind of, for me, what's coming up is reactivity.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, expand on that.
Reactivity of like you're in a room with a bunch of people and you're feeling uncomfortable because you're being locked out of a conversation, whatever it is, and suddenly like you blurt something out and everyone's like, where'd that come from?
Been there.
Instead of being able to sit there and observe and let things flow through you, and don't always need to say something.
Honestly, like sometimes less is more. Good Lord.
Less and more.
Yeah.
I know this conversation may be kind of all over the place a little bit, but I think it's a very broad topic.
Well, maybe that's a good thing because people will have to sit with their uncomfortability.
Yeah. it's a hard topic to kind of break down because it's different for everybody.
Right.
And again, it's the tools to deal with the feelings that come up, I think, is kind of the big thing.
Yeah, definitely. And, obviously that's just, it's all built over time, I guess. You have to...
Back to resilience.
And you have to be in a ton of social situations, right? I think that so I am very good at being in uncomfortable situations, but I'm very social, I'm very extroverted, I'm always doing something, talking to somebody, seeing somebody, right? And this has made it to where I can handle a lot, right? I have a very high threshold. Not everybody has a very high threshold. And so, I don't know, how do you think we should deal with that fact? Because there have been times where I'm just, being myself, party animal Matthew. And, I've been in scenarios. Yeah, I've been in scenarios where I did something by mistake that made somebody uncomfortable. And my first reaction is to apologize for what I did because I don't want people to feel that way through something that I did of my own accord, that is. And I don't know. I feel like that is the right way to sort of go about it, right? But I don't know. Are there ever times where you should just let the person sit with that? I don't know. Obviously, this is very lofty. We would need a specific scenario, I suppose.
It's very lofty because it's that blending of, did you actually do anything wrong? Now, there are situations where people do.
Yes.
But
P. Diddy.
He did indeed. Yes. But sitting with that one.
Yeah.
But there are situations where you didn't do anything wrong. And, it's interesting. It's you're apologizing for making someone feel uncomfortable when you didn't do anything wrong.
That's happened to me.
And yeah, it's an odd one to unpack.
Yeah, I remember. I'm not going to say the scenario, but that did happen to me one time. And I apologize. It was two different people that were involved. and I apologized to them both separately. And one was like, oh yeah, thanks, I'll have to, sit with this for a little bit, whatever. The other person was like, I don't think you did anything wrong. And I was like, that's very interesting. So yeah, I've been there. It's very interesting. It's very odd. I felt good about apologizing because I don't ever want to come off as like a dick, right? Ever, and if I made somebody uncomfortable, that's not good. But I don't know if this is necessarily the kind of uncomfortability you are talking about specifically, or is it?
I mean, it's a very broad thing.
It is a broad thing, but I don't know. I feel like maybe you're more so getting at like life and when just stuff is thrown at you and it's,
Instead of someone, streaking down the sidewalk and being like, oh man, this is a little weird and odd. I'm going to stay away from that.
Yeah.
That's a level of uncomfortability.
Whereas if you saw it at a sporting event, it would just be funny. Context is everything, folks.
Yeah. sitting in a room with your partner and having a uncomfortable conversation that's a hard conversation.
Yeah, there you go.
That's important.
Yes. Okay.
Right? Very
I like
different scenarios.
Very different scenarios, yes. Just as with everything in life, it's gray, not black and white. But yeah. Like, okay, in the setting of like, an uncomfortable conversation that you have to have, I think this can go back to what we said last time that we talked in my basement into microphones to put on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about like self-respect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, like, to have conversations like that, to put yourself in uncomfortable situations because it's going to suck now but get better in the long run, I feel like that is a sign of self-awareness and self-respect, right? Because putting something off and procrastinating about it probably is just going to be detrimental to you in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how I see it. Things have happened to me that were like that, where I've put stuff off and then I bring it up finally and it gets resolved. Yes, it's uncomfortable AF as it's happening, but it eventually gets resolved and then everybody can move forward and grow and be happy in the long run, right? Yeah, that is a skill that I definitely feel is lacking, It is. I mean, and I'm not saying, I'm so good at it because I've done it before. I'm saying like it is lacking and like I'm guilty of it too.
No, it's a skill you have to train. Humans are complex and every situation is going to be different.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of life.
It is. Very much so.
Is that every situation is different and that there's this array, there's this myriad of variety, whether it be good, bad, comfortable, uncomfortable. It's just what makes life life. And I love that.
I met someone recently.
Yeah.
She started chatting with me at a party.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, I don't know anyone here. I'm like, oh, well, you know me now.
Nice.
And she's like, oh, well, it's nice to meet you. And we started talking. And she's like, yeah, I don't get out. I was like, oh, what brought you here? Oh, my friend told me I had to come. I was like, why did you make the decision to come and get out and meet people? She's like, I thought it was time. And I was like, how are you feeling right now? She's like, I'm a little wary and uncomfortable. I was like, oh, well, let's talk. Like, you've got a friend now.
This is why I love you, Nate. We both do this at parties. Yeah. We're just like, hey, let's get deep.
But it's scary. Being uncomfortable is also meeting other people and putting yourself into situations which are uncomfortable for you because of the fear of failure or rejection. Yeah, it's also very uncomfortable.
Massive.
Right. And there is, the theory of like mass rejection. Just go out and ask people on the street, hey, can I have $50? And 99.9% will say, no, go away. And then maybe one person.
Right.
But you get real good at rejection. That's how I got it when I worked on cruise ships as a photographer.
Totally. Well, and I mean,
I got told to fuck off many times. Like, no worries, have a great day.
Yeah.
And
cheers.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable learning how to talk to other people.
Honestly, yeah, it is. I mean, the only reason I'm any good at it is because I worked in restaurants for so long. Mm-hmm. And I had to because my income depended on it. So I got really good at it because that was my survival mechanism.
And made you a better person and a broader group of people around you.
I agree with that because not only did I learn how to talk and interact with people, but I had to learn how to balance it. And what I mean by that is, gosh, because, you've been out to eat before and you've had a server probably or a bartender that was just a little too involved in your conversation. Yeah, exactly. Like, I know I've done that to people before and that's like cringe looking back at it, right? But how would I know unless I did it and learned from it?
So what's coming up for me at this moment is uncomfortableness is, for the most part, directly correlated with fear.
Yeah. Unpack that.
A fear of something.
Sure. Yeah, because why would I do something that I'm afraid of because it could go dead wrong and make me feel terrible and uncomfortable?
Because I don't know how to deal with outcomes, whether that's danger
Yeah.
or non-danger, such as, you're sitting with a partner, it's like, oh, this relationship might end. There's a lot of fear behind that. Or being in an Uber and not knowing how to deal with a person who might be, drunk or whatever it else is, that feels uncomfortable. But when you have the tools to be able to deal with those situations, you don't feel that as much.
Right. And the tools come with experience.
Experience and putting yourself out there,
Yeah,
or learning and how to navigate these things.
Right, because okay, say that you read a bunch of tactics in a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could get to the actual scenario and freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Experience is honestly kind of everything. And how do you get there? You put yourself out there, which is easier said than done.
It is.
But I mean, how else?
I guess for anyone listening, my request is, if you have something come up like this with uncomfortableness, ask yourself, how can you challenge that feeling to learn the skills to not have to feel that?
Love that. Dang. Yeah. Honestly, let's end there. Dude, that was short, sweet, to the point. I loved it.
Concise.
You stumped me. I didn't know what to say at one point, and then we got to a good place. Yeah. Let's leave it there.
Heard.
I love that. Challenge yourselves, guys, because how else are you going to grow? How else are you going to move forward? You're only going to do it by doing. So Shia LaBeouf that shit. Just do it.
Shai Hulud.
/Nike if you're British.
Adidas.
God, I love you.
Please sponsor us.
Low key though, I'm still trying to get sponsored by McCormick.
Oh, all right.
Or McDonald's. Any of the
that
mix.
one's a little harder.
Well, okay, so here's the deal. McDonald's made a Game Boy game. Did you know this?
No.
So do you remember the Grimace's birthday
No.
promotion where they had the purple shakes? Okay, whatever. It was last year, I think. Whatever.
Too
it's fine.
American for me.
Yeah, don't worry. I get it. Anyways, they made a Game Boy game in celebration of that.
Okay.
And the soundtrack is actually lit, and I definitely want to remix it and just
I look forward to
post.
hearing it.
I'll be one of those TikTokers that's like, day 105 until McDonald's sponsors me.
I want to see this.
Yeah, there's one that's legit Jersey Club. It's really banging. Anyways,
all right.
I played the game on an airplane. It took me 20 minutes to beat, but they still made a Game Boy game, and the soundtrack is pumping. Anyways, please sponsor us or don't sue us. Remember when that was
All
a joke?
both at the same time.
Oh, man. This has been The Quest Within. We'll see you next time.
Take it easy.
This is the quest within. The quest within.